Some lives move fast, blurred days, faces passing, moments forgotten before they settle. Then there are people who carry everything: the light of a certain hour, the exact weight of a silence. The way a stranger's laugh can stay with you for years. This is Claire's story. It begins in the kind of October that feels like holding your breath, crisp, golden at the edges, full of signs most people miss. But Evelyn Claire Hartwell never missed anything. She lived her life like pages pressed carefully into a book, safe, ordered, and complete, until the afternoon the door opened, the air turned cold, and someone walked in who didn't fit between the lines. A story of remembering too clearly and learning that even what breaks can still be beautiful. Are you ready? All Too Well, Chapter 1. The rain in Ashcombe Hollow didn't fall so much as linger, a fine mist that clung to eyelashes and shop windows and the wool of second-hand coats, and Evelyn Claire Hartwell had come to think of it as a kind of company. She'd lived in the town for 2 years now, long enough that the cobblestones on Prescott Street had memorized the particular rhythm of her boots, long enough that the barista at the corner cafe knew to have her order. A flat white, too hot to drink for the first 10 minutes, always ready before she reached the counter. Long enough, she sometimes thought, that she'd stopped bracing for something to go wrong. She worked at Halloway and Finch, a bookstore wedged between a defunct print shop and a tailor who mended coats for the entire town on credit, its windows fogged from the inside with the heat of an ancient radiator that clanked like it held grudges. The shop smelled of dust and glue and old paper, a smell Claire had come to associate with safety the way other people associated safety with the sound of rain on a roof or a mother's voice through a doorway. She had built her life, deliberately, around things that stayed where you left them. Books didn't rearrange themselves overnight. Stories, once told, ended the same way each time you reread them. There was a comfort in that kind of permanence that she didn't examine too closely, because to examine it would mean admitting why she needed it. It was the last Saturday of October, and Halloway and Finch was hosting its autumn book sale, a tradition older than Claire's tenure there, in which the entire back room was emptied onto trestle tables in the small square out front, damaged spines and doubled editions, and estate sale acquisitions sold for coins to anyone willing to dig. The whole town turned out for it, more for the mulled cider Mrs. Finch made in an enormous dented pot than for the books themselves, though Claire liked to think a few converts were made every year, some retired schoolteacher discovering a battered copy of Middlemarch they'd meant to read since 1974. She was elbow-deep in a crate of poetry anthologies, trying to sort the water-damaged ones from the merely dog-eared, when the crate on the next table over-collapsed. It didn't fall so much as erupt. Later she would remember it that way, with a kind of fondness she hadn't earned yet, a stack of oversized art books sliding sideways off a table because someone had leaned against it while gesturing too enthusiastically at a friend, and then the domino cascade of the crate beside it, and then a man's voice saying, with the calm of someone for whom disaster was a fairly regular acquaintance, Okay, that's happening. Claire looked up in time to see him crouching low, catching a hardcover atlas an inch before it hit the wet cobblestones, and missing the 3 paperbacks that weren't so lucky. "I am so sorry," he said to her, to Mrs. Finch, to the general vicinity, to no one in particular. He had dark hair that the mist had softened into loose waves, and he was wearing a jacket that looked expensive in the way things look expensive when they've been well-loved rather than well-preserved, elbow going thin. A small tear at the cuff he clearly hadn't noticed or hadn't cared about. He gathered the fallen books with the specific, slightly panicked tenderness of someone raised by a mother who drilled you treat books like they're alive into him at an early age, and when he looked up at Claire, his face did something complicated: surprise, first, and something like recognition, and then a kind of easy charm that she suspected he deployed the way other people cleared their throats. "I've just been asked to leave several establishments in this manner," he said. "I have a gift. You've knocked over crates in multiple bookstores?" "I want to say it's not multiple. I want to say that, but I would be lying, and I try not to lie to strangers before noon." He checked his watch, an actual watch, old, the leather band cracked with theatrical solemnity. "It's 11:40. We're fine." She should have laughed and moved on. That was, she would reflect later, the sensible response, a quick smile, a no harm done, back to her poetry anthologies and the quiet architecture of her Saturday. Instead, she found herself crouching to help him gather the last of the paperbacks, and their hands reached for the same water-stained copy of Wuthering Heights at the same moment, and there was a beat half a second, less where neither of them pulled back. "You can have it," he said. "I feel I owe you a book. Possibly several. Possibly this entire crate. I don't need Heathcliff's terrible life choices narrated to me again. Thank you." Something shifted in his expression. Genuine surprise this time, unguarded. "You don't like it? I think it's a masterclass in how obsession isn't the same as love, and everyone who reads it as a great romance has missed the point spectacularly." She hadn't meant to say all of that. It had simply arrived, the way opinions did when she wasn't being careful, and she watched him receive it like it was the most interesting thing anyone had said to him all week. "Huh," he said. "Okay. I'm reassessing my whole opinion of this book in real time, and I hate that." "Good. I'm Jasper," he said, straightening, extending a hand still faintly dusty from the fallen crate.
Kesperhale.
Chaos agent, reluctant Bronte skeptic as of 90 seconds ago. Claire. She shook his hand. His grip was warm, a little too firm, like he hadn't quite calibrated how hard to hold on. "Evelyn, technically. Everyone calls me Claire." "Why?" It was such a small question, so unremarkable on its face, and yet no one had asked her that in longer than she could remember. People took the names you gave them and didn't wonder about the ones you'd set down. "It's a long story," she said, which was true, and also a door she wasn't ready to open for a man she'd known for 4 minutes in a puddle of rain and spilled poetry. "I like long stories," he said, and something about the way he said it, unhurried, like he had nowhere else in the world he needed to be, made her think, absurdly, I could tell you. She didn't. But the thought arrived and stayed, small and strange, the way a burr catches on a coat sleeve, and you don't notice until later that it's still there. Mrs. Finch, who had been watching this entire exchange from behind the cider pot with the transparent delight of a woman who considered matchmaking a civic duty, chose that moment to appear at Claire's elbow with 2 paper cups of mulled cider, one of which she pressed into Jasper's hand before he could protest. "You'll want that," she said, "for the shock of nearly destroying my sail." "Ma'am, I would like to formally apologize." "Don't apologize, dear. Just buy something." She surveyed him with the frank appraisal of a woman twice his age who had long since stopped pretending not to notice things. "You're new." "Visiting my aunt." "Well, she'd say staying with if you asked her." "I'd say hiding out at." He said it lightly, but Claire caught something underneath it, a small evasive current, the kind of thing you only notice if you've spent your whole life noticing the small currents underneath what people say.
Margaret Hale.
Lives out past the mill road. Margaret's nephew. Mrs. Finch's eyebrows climbed. "The one from the city. The very one. She talks about you." "That is deeply concerning, and I'd like to know in what context." "Mostly fondly," Mrs. Finch said, with the air of someone withholding at least one unfond context, and swept off toward a customer arguing about the price of a chipped teapot she was, inexplicably, also selling at the book sale, because Mrs. Finch's organizational principles had never been particularly rigid. Jasper looked at Claire over the rim of his cider cup, something rueful and warm in his expression. "So now you know I have an aunt who gossips about me to booksellers. An important detail. I'll add it to the very short file I have on you." "There's a file?" "There's the beginning of one. Currently it says, knocks over crates, dislikes being asked why people call him Jasper instead of some other name, has opinions about Wuthering Heights he's willing to abandon under mild pressure." That last one makes me sound spineless. It makes you sound like someone willing to reconsider things. I consider that rarer than spine. She had meant that to sound as pointed as it landed, and she watched something flicker behind his eyes, quick, gone before she could be sure she'd seen it. He recovered with a grin easy and a little too fast, the kind of smile she suspected worked on most people because it was warm and because he clearly knew how to use it. "I'll take it," he said.
"So,
Claire, who used to be Evelyn, do you work here, or did you just win the crate-catching lottery today?" "I work here. 6 days a week, generally. Unless Mr. Holloway remembers he employs me and lets me have a Sunday." That sounds like indentured servitude with a nice smell. It's the best job I've had, she said and meant it, surprising herself a little with how plainly true it felt to say out loud. I like things that don't move on you. Books stay where you shelve them. They don't, she stopped herself, aware she was drifting somewhere she hadn't intended to go, somewhere private and redirected. It's peaceful. That's all. Jasper studied her for a moment longer than was strictly comfortable, in a way that felt less like being looked at and more like being looked toward, like he was trying to see past the sentence to whatever she'd swallowed before finishing it. She had the sudden, disorienting sense that he'd caught the shape of what she hadn't said, even without the words. I like things that move, he said finally, lightly, but with a shrug that seemed to cost him something. Or I used to think I did. I've been in this town for 3 weeks, and I haven't wanted to leave once, which is new. Concerning, possibly. I'm keeping an eye on it. Concerning how? I'm not really a stay person. He said it like a fact about the weather, something established and unchangeable, though his eyes didn't quite agree with his mouth. Ask anyone. My aunt will tell you. Several X something or others would tell you if you could find them, which you generally can't because they don't stay either, once I'm involved. It's not a great pattern. I'm aware it's not a great pattern. That's an oddly specific thing to confess to a stranger over book sale cider. I'm an oddly specific person. He smiled, but it didn't fully reach the rest of his face this time, and Claire, who noticed things, who had spent years training herself to notice things because the noticing was the only defense she had against a world that liked to erase itself the moment you turned away, filed that smile away too. Not fully happy. Something guarded sitting just behind it, like a man standing near a door he wasn't sure he wanted to walk through or out of. Well, she said, because the silence had gone on a beat too long and she didn't know yet what to do with a silence like that. One that felt full instead of merely empty. For what it's worth, the crates are grateful you're staying at least until Sunday. Structural integrity of the sale depends on it. I make no promises about the crates. He glanced past her, toward the tables, then back, and something in his posture shifted, the easy sprawl of him gathering itself, like he'd remembered there was a version of himself he generally presented and had let it slip for a minute too long. I should let you get back to your damaged poetry. I've caused enough structural damage for one Saturday. Probably wise. He didn't move yet, though. Can I ask you something? And you can say it's none of my business. You can ask. Do you actually believe that? About obsession not being love. About Heathcliff. His voice had lost some of its performance, gone quieter, more genuinely curious than the rest of the conversation had been. Or was that just a good line to throw at a stranger who dropped a crate on you? Claire considered the question longer than it probably warranted, because it felt, suddenly, like it mattered that she answer it honestly.
I believe it, she said.
I think people confuse the two because obsession is loud and love is mostly quiet, and loud is easier to mistake for important. I think real love is the boring parts too. The parts nobody writes poems about. Something crossed his face then that she wouldn't be able to name for months. Not quite recognition, not quite longing. Something adjacent to both. The expression of a man hearing a sentence that answered a question he hadn't known he was carrying around. I think, he said slowly, that might be the most honest thing anyone said to me since I got to this town. Low bar or high compliment? Both, maybe. He smiled again, and this one reached all the way up, unguarded for just a second before he caught it and reeled it back to something more manageable. I'll see you around, Claire, who used to be Evelyn. This is a small town. I have a feeling that's not optional. It's not, she agreed. Ashcombe Hollow has approximately 4 streets and 1 bookstore. You'll see me around whether either of us wants to or not. I want to, he said, simply, without the charm-offensive gloss he'd layered over everything else he'd said, and then, as if hearing how that had landed, added quickly, for the book recommendations. Obviously, I clearly need better literary guidance than whatever led me to defend Wuthering Heights to a woman holding a crate of poetry. Obviously, Claire said, and let him have the exit, though something in her chest had gone warm and strange and unfamiliar, a feeling she recognized only distantly, the way you recognize a song you haven't heard since childhood, not the words, just the shape of the feeling underneath them. He lifted his cider cup in something like a toast, turned, and walked back toward his aunt's stall 2 tables down, where an older woman with silver hair and Jasper's same restless eyebrows was watching the whole exchange with poorly disguised interest. Claire went back to her poetry anthologies. She sorted the water-damaged ones from the dog-eared ones with the same careful attention she always brought to the task, and told herself the sudden lightness in her chest was nothing, was cider and mist, and the ordinary pleasure of a stranger's passing kindness, nothing more permanent than that. She did not, in that moment, believe herself. Some part of her, the part that remembered everything, that had never once in her life successfully forgotten a single detail she wished she could set down, was already filing this afternoon away with a kind of care she reserved for things she suspected, even before she had proof, that she would want to hold on to. The rain kept falling, soft and constant, and across the square, Jasper Hale glanced back exactly once before his aunt pulled him into a conversation about a chipped teapot, and Claire pretended very hard not to notice that he had. She noticed anyway. She always did. Thank you for walking through every autumn, every quiet memory, every laugh and tear alongside Evelyn Claire Hartwell and Jasper. Thank you for lingering in the slow moments, for trusting the silence, and for caring enough to feel it all deeply. If this story made you remember something beautiful or something that still lingers, let it stay there gently, not as something broken, but as proof that you know how to love fully and hold truth close. Some books end, but the ones that touch your heart stay with you forever, remembered all too well. I'm so grateful you chose this journey with me. Wishing you warmth, clear light, and beautiful stories ahead wherever your own path leads. See you next chapter.